Look at the camera.
Okay.
So, ready? Saddam Hussein, formerly the 5th president of Iraq, was without a doubt the worst president the country has ever seen.
He built up an authoritarian empire.
He launched war with the U.S. over oil and Kuwait.
Before it all came crumbling down and ended with his execution.
Good!
So the impact on women and minorities during the Saddam Hussein's regime. There was a lot of human rights violation under his regime. So although Iraq violated a lot of human rights, in comparison to the region around it, it wasn't as bad, but whereas if it were compared to the western areas such as the United States, it was very bad. Tens of thousands of minorities were killed and millions fled for their lives. According to the head of the minorities' rights group at the time, the impact on minorities has been catastrophic. Saddam was terrible. The situation since its worst. Tens of thousands of minorities have been killed and millions have fled for their lives.
For the tens of thousands who fell under the minority category, being murdered, maimed, or abducted was always a possibility, with many young girls and women being forced into marriages and sexual enslavement. Saddam Hussein was born on April 28, 1937 in the small village of Al-Awja, Iraq.
Saddam's mother did not care or want him, so she sent him with his uncle as a young boy.
Shortly after receiving Saddam's uncle was thrown in jail, forcing Saddam to go back to live with his mother, who had now remarried to Saddam's stepfather. His stepfather abused him physically and psychologically.
Yeah, his childhood sucked.
Saddam rose to power and became dictator of Iraq in 1979. Part of his dictatorship was an authoritarian-style government, where he would establish policies aimed at maintaining complete government control. At age 20, Saddam joined the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party. This was a political party founded in Syria that focused on the ideology that all Arab nations should be unified as one. Baathism calls for a unity between all Arab states into a single Arab state in the Middle East. Its motto, Unity, Liberty, Socialism, calls for unity of the Arab states and freedom from non-Arab control and interference.
In October 1959, Saddam and other members of the Ba'ath Party attempted to assassinate the president of Iraq at the time, but failed. So, Saddam and other members of the Ba'ath Party escaped Syria.
Years passed, and Saddam, backed by the leader of the Ba'ath coup d'etat, established his presidency in Iraq. He purged anyone who went against his Ba'ath Party ideals or who seemed a threat to him and his power. Methods of torture used by Saddam to enforce his rules during this time included
assault with brass knuckles,
lowering prisoners into vats of acid,
poisoning with thallium,
electric shocks to the genitalia,
burning off limbs,
burning prisoners with cigarette butts,
the raping of limos in front of their family members, the crushing of bones,
amputating limbs, ears, and tongues,
and the gouging of eyes.
In the south of Iraq, there have been huge divisions between the Shia and the Sunni Muslims. Saddam Hussein only furthered these divisions. Saddam, who was a Sunni leader, persecuted the Shia Muslims under his regime. The Shia Muslims sought to help Iran during the Iran-Iraq War, which further increased the hostility of the rebellion, turning it into a war of religion as these two sects fought for control of the region. The Shia attacks spread into predominantly Shia cities across Iraq. When these attacks started, many of Saddam's royal guards who were Shiite defectists along with leftist Sunni Muslims, like the Iraqi Communist Party and anti-Saddam nationalists, who both fought to end the reign of Saddam Hussein.
Okay, in the north there was a tribe called the Kurds, and they began a resistance against the control of Saddam. There was three main Kurdish groups, and they're all really long names. The first one is the democratic one, the second one is the Islamic one, and the third one is the movement one.
No, the one of them is Islamic movement.
Okay.
You even messed that up. Oh my god, you're stupid. It's Kurdistan Democratic Party, Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, and Kurdistan Islamic Movement. Put you to shame.
It's hard. In 1988, Saddam Hussein ordered a cleansing of the Kurds. After this occurred, Kurdish rebellions erupted. The Kurdish took over every city in the north except the Mosul city. Kurdish rebels besieged the home base of the secret police. They captured and killed several hundreds Ba'ath Party officials.
In response to these rebellions, Saddam Hussein offered positions of power for Shia and Kurd officials. He offered these positions in hopes of the Kurd and Shia people's loyalty to the central government of Iraq. These positions, however, were declined. Regime loyalists attempted to regroup and take back the lost 14 out of 18 provinces. Using helicopter gunships, the Iraqi army murdered thousands of people, rebel and civilian. Southern rebels disbanded in late March of that year, while northern rebels were destroyed very quickly. And on April 5th, the Iraqi government announced the complete crushing of all acts of sedition, sabotage, and rioting in all towns of Iraq. Saddam's authoritarian government, as the name implies, enforced strict obedience to authority, the authority being the central government of Iraq. So when the Emir of Kuwait did not listen to Iraq's request to stop drilling oil within the northern part of their territory, Saddam Hussein got infuriated and proceeded to invade the nation, blaming the Emir of Kuwait for not stopping oil drilling in that area. He not only accused the Emir of Kuwait of overproduction of oil, but also from slant drilling into their own fields. Iraq proceeded then to invade and annex Kuwait. The US later got involved because they were worried about their oil interests in Kuwait. This evolved into a war between the US and Iraq, in which the infamous Desert Storm and Desert Shield happened. The war ended all Arabian and Western world positive relations, the result of which was deeply damaged relations between the Arab and the Western world. Before the Gulf War, however, Saddam had to successfully establish himself as an authoritarian leader. He did this mainly by using propaganda to gain the confidence, obedience, and trust of the people of Iraq. By implementing policies and distributing propaganda, Saddam was effectively able to brainwash his citizens into supporting him in whatever military or political move he made. The first type of propaganda was the religious propaganda. While Saddam was born a Sunni Muslim, it is not sure whether he was an actual devout Muslim. He became a more devout Sunni Muslim later in life to increase his political power and gain the trust and approval of the majority of the Iraq population, which were devout Sunni Muslims. The fact that he did not persecute Christians in Iraq further promotes the belief that he did not persecute based on religion or religious views. This did not stop him from persecuting the Shia or Shiite Muslims, as it is not sure whether he viewed them as a political, religious, or social threat, or all three. Again, this was an effort to gain the approval, trust, and establish that rapport and camaraderie with the majority of the population of Iraq, which happened to be Sunni, who had the intense rivalry and division between them and the Shiite Muslims. Saddam's propaganda machine had the unique advantage of having total control of all informational assets within the country. With this advantage, Saddam was in a position to appeal to his target audience and making sure what they see, hear, and read, and making them believe what he wants them to believe based on the information that he feeds to them. Saddam appointed propaganda responsibilities to many government officials and even some of the Ba'ath Party, ensuring that no one could maintain or gain too much power on their own. The information is okay. Within Iraq, the government controlled all the television and radio broadcasting, Within Iraq, the government controlled all television, radio, and even newspaper publications. Censorship was so tight that even typewriters had to be registered with the government before being used to disseminate information. Iraqi propaganda was aimed to appeal to the basic elements among all Arab nations. Iraqi propaganda appeals to the basic elements among all Arab nations: morality, nationalism, and religion. Using those elements, the Iraqi propaganda machine painted a terrible picture of America. The United States was made out to be an enemy that opposed everything good and sacred to the Iraqi people. Some examples of propaganda during the Gulf War include America creating Desert Storm and Desert Shield to be able to invade Iraq to then corrupt their Arab rulers.
Americans were addicted to wine, women, and songs that were openly violating Arab morals.
American soldiers were very afraid of the Iraqi army, which was well trained due to their 10-year war with Iran.
The American soldiers would not be able to withstand the rigor of the desert.
And lastly, that the Americans used the war as an excuse to steal Arab oil. It was because of this propaganda that the authoritarian state was allowed to exist, with the people fully trusting and believing everything that their dictator gave to them and presented to them as true.